a 53-year-old mother of two sons, 27 and 24, a wife of 29 years, and I'm currently working as a nurse, my second career in life. And ironically, the secretary in the case management department where I was working, who was a very, very spiritual lady, looked at me one day and said, "You're supposed to be a nurse. What are you doing with your life?" And I just kind of laughed her off at the time. Things as they are, and it's, it's been okay though. the problem, I needed to be the strong one for the family, so we kind of made a joke about it. Because of the lesions, I tell them I have spots in my brain, and when I do something stupid, I always say, "Oh, it's my spots acting up," and things like that. But everybody was affected because nobody really knew what was going to happen next. By this point, because it was from the time I had the problem with my sight, where I used to explain it to people that when they block somebody's face out on TV and they have that like funny looking, that's what I would have like right across my one eye. So I would only see out of my left eye, like with like above and below. It's just an odd thing, which eventually cleared up, and I have probably 90% of my sight back from that episode. But it affected the family a lot more than I ever thought it did. Well, my older son was away, so he didn't really see what was going on or knew what was going on. And I think my younger son was just more concerned, worried, kind of, just kept looking. But I guess it was my brothers and sisters that made me kind of laugh the most, because my younger brother in particular, the first time he saw me after everybody found out, I had to actually say to him, "Stop staring at me, I'm not Cyclops," because the way he just kept looking at me like I had grown like a third eye or something. But the only thing that I've had one exacerbation or relapse, and that was when both of my boys were graduating from college, one with his bachelor's and the other with his doctorate. It happened to be that spring, and I was working in the hospital, and I started with just some pain on the right side of my face and my ear, kind of, and it progressed to the point where I kind of lost function of my right arm. I was able to walk, so it didn't go down as far as my leg, but I went back to the neurologist, and I had to go on IV steroids, which is kind of like the only treatment that they can do. And because I was going to graduations, they switched over pretty quickly to oral medications, but I was very, very fortunate that I got all of my function back, except for fine motor, which is one of the other reasons the hospital really wasn't for me. I have gross motor skills in my right hand. I just don't have the real fine that you need for like starting IVs and things like that. I can maintain them, but I can't honestly start them very well. Mm-hmm. So, doing things that I had always wanted to do, it made me decide to plan them and make them happen. From a physical standpoint, the three things that are my biggest enemies are fatigue, heat, and stress. None of which in my life or my job I have, of course, like everybody else. But I do find I have to be very, very careful in the summer months. When we're going to do something or go somewhere, I do have to be a little more conscious of if it's going to be at the hottest part of the day, or making provisions to make sure I can get somewhere where I can cool down. One of the biggest problems with MS is your body doesn't have the mechanism to cool itself. And being female and middle-aged, that's like a triple whammy, because your thermostat's already off. So with the MS, it makes it even worse. There are times I can be overheated and not even realize it, but it causes more fatigue when you're overheated. And the first time that happened, I don't know why I didn't put it together. I was working at the hospital, and I just remember getting up like 4 or 5 mornings in a row thinking, I know I slept last night, but I really don't feel like I slept at all. And then finally it occurred to me what was going on, and that passed, but I can't even describe the fatigue. It's like so bone deep exhaustion that there's nothing you can do about it. You kind of just have to ride it out.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that I'll get, and it happens at night, it's, I'll get like twitching in my foot. And it's something, it's not restless leg, because it's not all the time and it's not every night, but I will get that. It's an annoyance more than a pain. It doesn't really impact me all that much. I just have to keep, changing position to get it to stop, and then it'll go away.
Mm-hmm.
When I had the first the diagnoses initially, I was given a choice of what medications I wanted to go on, none of which I really wanted to go on, because unfortunately up until this year, all of the treatments that were available were injections. And I had a phobia against needles. I can't even tell you how hard the thoughts of having to get shots were for me. So I elected to go with the first line, which was a weekly intramuscular injection. And because I worked in the hospital and had enough friends that were nurses, I relied on a couple of them initially. I would do it, like stop Friday night at the nursing home I used to work in, and one of the nurses would give me the injection. And about 5 weeks into it, something came up, and either I couldn't get there or she couldn't stay. And I decided that it was about time that I learned how to do it, because I didn't want to be dependent on somebody else. And I had another MRI done, and the lesion that caused the problem, the doctor saw it right away, and he wanted to change the medication I was on, so now I do every other day, but they're subcutaneous injections, which are much smaller needles, and so I've been doing that mostly ever since. I miss here and there, but then, I forget or whatever. But that's where we're at with the treatment right now. I belong to the MS Society, the local chapter, Delaware Valley. I did walks for, I think it was 4 years we did them when they were more local to my house. I got some of my family involved, and we went out, and I still donate money. At this point, I don't really participate in the 3-day walk or the bike ride or anything. And then I got kind of lazy and didn't do that, but I joined the gym again in September, and I try to go 3 days a week just to keep strengthening the muscles, working. When I'm at work, I'm on my feet the whole time, and I am going up and down the stairs and all over, so I do keep active that way. But that's one of the other things. I really don't want to become complacent and let my muscles get too out of shape, because then if something happens, it'll be harder to bounce back. There's no cure, and it's never going to go away. Could it get worse? It's a possibility. That's the unpredictability of this whole disease process, and that's the part where I think is probably the hardest, because you just don't know what's going to happen.